All right, next thing, awareness. All right, every self-defense class is going to talk about awareness. You got to be aware of your surroundings. Is what we're going to try to do is I'm going to try to give you specific scenarios, specific times where you need to heighten your sense of awareness. Okay, it's telling people what you just have to be aware all the time of every person that you see. That's a little bit difficult. I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to talk to you guys about the specific times and places that you should heighten your sense of awareness. Now, one of the things that I like to do as a martial artist, just a general rule, okay, not to say that you have to be like super on the wall all the time. I like to have a general awareness of what's going on around me within a 100-yard radius. Okay, that's something that works for me. Okay, but again, we're going to break it down specifically when and where you need to do that. Number 3, we have gross skill striking. All right, gross skill striking. This is how you hit somebody. This is how you hit somebody. This is how you strike somebody, okay, if you're confronted in a self-defense situation. We're going to break down, okay, the 4 best ways to do that, okay, and I'm going to give you guys some technical training. We're also going to hit some mitts, okay, we're going to just work on that, what we call gross skill striking. This is super critical, okay. This stuff is probably going to be the difference between you living and not living in those self-defense situations. Your ability to implement this, okay, gross skill striking. It's not fancy stuff. It's not jump spinning kicks. Okay, it's easy things that you can do and take with you for the rest of your life. Okay, gross skill striking. The next thing is the groin. For whatever reason, that is a point of emphasis in self-defense. Okay, I'm telling you, it should not be. Okay, that's silly. All right, there's so many different areas in the body that you guys can strike. Okay, that are sensitive to a man or to a woman. The groin should not be something that is focused on or even an emphasis. Okay? Sometimes people think, oh, well, if I hit him in the groin, he's going to let it go. That's not a secret that women have amongst themselves. Okay? That when you hit somebody in the groin, they're going to let it go and run away. Okay? Somebody that has committed sexual assault, which statistically speaking, they do it over and over and over again, they're probably going to be ready for you to hit them in the groin. I'm not saying don't do it. My point is there's several different areas on the body that you guys can strike that are going to be effective in a self-defense situation. That's what I'm saying. Okay? So this should not be a point of emphasis. All right, usually when I talk to young women, they're usually really surprised by that. But like when I go and talk in the high schools, they're like, 6 minutes, that's amazing. I had no idea the scope of the challenge that women are facing, okay? Number 2, only 15% of rape is reported. Now that is super critical. We're gonna go back to that statistic all the time because a lot of these other things come back to that statistic. Okay, this is one of the things that we really got to make a concerted effort to work on. Okay, because of that low number of reporting, it means that sexual predators do it over and over and over and over and over again. Okay? So we're going to get back to that. All right, ages 18 to 24, okay, that's when you're the most likely to become sexually assaulted. It's 1 in 4, okay? All right, next thing. This is kind of more of a domestic kind of area now. 11% of homicides are committed by an intimate partner. Okay, so that's 1 in 10 of all murders are committed by somebody that you're in an intimate relationship with. Okay, and again, it's just there to kind of portray the scope of what the challenge is. The next thing is, for high school students, 1 in 5 high school students report sexual abuse. Okay, and again, most high school students, if you know someone who's in high school, you have a daughter who's in high school, or what have you, most of them feel like, I'm too young, this is not something that can happen to me, this is not something that affects me, okay? It affects high school students almost as much as it affects this demographic here. Okay, it's 1 in 5. All right. Now, the challenge with that is, especially the younger the person is, okay, that deals with the abuse, the harder it is to recover from that. Okay. Unfortunately, those women that are abused in high school, they're 4 to 6 times more likely to get pregnant, and they're 8 to 10 times more likely to attempt suicide. Now, what that means is, next to impossible to deal with something like this on your own. Okay, so especially when I'm talking to younger women, I tell them, if you know somebody who's dealing with this, you need to get them professional help. Okay, you need to give them whatever resources that you can possibly give them, okay, to help them deal with with this kind of situation. Okay, a lot of times people think, well, I can just help them myself, like be the form. You can't. You need to get them more help. It can't just be you. Okay, so again, just to illustrate the scope of our challenge. All right, relationship violence is the #1 cause of injury to women. Okay, it's not car accidents, it's not anything else, it's relationship violence, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about kind of what are things to look for as it pertains to relationship violence, okay? All right, we'll stop there. Let's go on to our next series of strikes. Some types of behaviors here. We got controlling versus possessive behaviors. Okay, now this is more of a domestic situation, all right? And one of the things that I found interesting when they interview people that have been victims of domestic violence or things like that, a lot of times they said something that was interesting to me. A lot of times they said, I don't know where things broke down. I don't know where we went wrong. I don't remember a time specifically, or we didn't really have a defining moment where everything fell apart, okay? And that's why I thought it was important to construct this list. Okay, first of all, okay, what is more dangerous, controlling or possessive behaviors? It's always the one that you don't think it is. Okay, it's controlling. Everyone thinks possessive, but it's controlling. Here's why. Controlling behaviors, that's the manifestation of this emotion. Okay, so somebody being possessive in and of itself, okay, that's not necessarily toxic. Okay, it's only toxic once it manifests itself in the form of these behaviors, controlling behaviors. All right, now this is a list of things that I want you to pay attention to. Okay, it might pertain to you specifically. It might pertain to somebody that you know. That's what happens a lot. You're like, I know two people right now that are dealing with this. Okay, it might be a kid, a daughter, or son of yours, or what have you. Okay, the first thing is, okay, in terms of controlling behaviors, it's isolation. Here's what I mean when I say isolation. Isolation is you're in a relationship with somebody, or you know somebody who's in a relationship, okay, and all of a sudden they're starting to become isolated. That means they're kind of rejecting people that were normally in their life, that normally stood as good, relational figures to them, and they're starting to reject that. They're starting to hang out with only their significant other. Okay, they're not hanging out with their friends as much. They're not hanging out with their family as much because their significant other is exhibiting some level of control, saying, I don't want you hanging out with this person. I don't want you hanging out with that person. I don't want you hanging out with the family because they don't like me. Okay, once you start seeing that or feeling that, that could be emblematic of something that is a little bit more serious. Okay, so again, you're in that relationship and someone in your significant other saying, I don't want you hanging out with this person. I don't want you hanging out with your friends. I don't want you hanging around your family. Okay, then it could be something more problematic. The next thing is, okay, I know, it might not just be one of these things. It might be a basket of these things. The next one is friends and family. This is my personal favorite, okay? If you're in a relationship with somebody, okay, and there's a consensus. Your friends don't like him. Your parents don't like him. Your family doesn't like him. He's probably an idiot, okay? If there's a consensus that nobody likes this person, it's probably because they're a bad person. Okay, and sometimes people feel like, oh, well, I can help this person, I can save this person. Okay, generally speaking, when there's a consensus, they're probably right. Okay, just saying. All right, moving on. Next one is somebody that makes unilateral decisions. Again, these behaviors, okay, can be indicative of somebody that has an issue with control. Okay, that's what we're talking about, okay? And it goes back to our statistic. All right, 11% of homicides are committed by somebody who's in an intimate relationship with somebody. All right, so again, somebody who makes unilateral decisions. Unilateral decisions, like, I canceled our trip to Hawaii to go to the Michigan Notre Dame game. Okay? That's a unilateral. That's something that would require a conversation. That's not something that someone should just do automatically without consulting them. Okay? That's one example. There's several different examples of that. But if you feel like you're in a relationship where somebody is making those decisions for you, okay, it could be something more problematic. The next thing is somebody that is blowing up your phone. Okay? Or again, it might not apply directly to you, but it might apply to somebody that you know. Okay, it might be your kid. Okay, you might have a daughter right now, and there's some boy texting her 200 times a day. Okay, that's a problem. Okay, somebody blows up your phone. It is not normal to call anybody 20 times a day for any reason, right? It's not normal to text anybody 200 times in a night for any reason. That's not normal behavior, right? Okay, sometimes, especially younger people, they attribute these types of behaviors to being in a very passionate relationship. Okay. He called me 20 times when I didn't answer last night because he loves me, okay? Sometimes we make that mistake, okay? We just got to be conscious of that. That's not normal for anybody, okay? You've never called anybody 20 times in a day, right? See? Neither have I. All right, moving on. Jealousy. Now, when we talk about jealousy, okay, at very limited doses, okay, is not the worst thing in a relationship, okay? I'm talking about when it becomes irrational, okay? And I'm sure everyone has been to the point where they've been in a relationship that's had irrational jealousy, okay, to the point where it doesn't even make sense. Okay, there's no possible chance that what you're doing means that you're cheating, but your partner still thinks that you're cheating, or still thinks that you're crossing the line, or still thinks you're doing something that's unacceptable, or it's crossed the lines of your relationship. Okay, so again, we're not talking about regular jealousy. I'm talking about irrational jealousy, and I'm sure we've all been there. We know somebody who's dealing with that right now. Okay, the last one is someone who's vindictive. Okay, when I say vindictive, that's somebody who punishes you in the relationship. Okay, somebody who tries to get even. Okay, well, I saw you talking to that guy. Okay, so I went and slept with somebody, okay? That's somebody who's trying to get even. That's not healthy. That's not normal in a relationship. Somebody that punishes you in the relationship. I'm not talking to you for 2 weeks because I saw you text messaging some guy, okay? That's not normal behavior, okay? Those are things that you talk out like an adult, okay? That's not something you punish somebody about. You shouldn't be feeling like you're in a relationship with somebody punishing you all the time. That's abnormal. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on this stuff? All right, we're going to talk about something really important as it pertains to self-defense. Yes, ma'am.
Do these count for relationships that aren't necessarily romantic relationships?
Sure. You might have a friend that's treating you like this. Yeah. Absolutely. That happens all the time, too. In which case, you would defend it the exact same way. We're going to talk about how to defend it. Okay? All right. Yeah.
The personal partner that's cheating, could they also turn that around on you? So it's not necessarily a control thing, it's more like a guilty conscience of their own.
You drove me.
Say that again.
You drove me to it.
Say that
You,
again.
you drove me to it.
A quick story where a guy cheated on his wife, and he was basically putting her through the cheating checking out if she's been cheating out, but he was
Sure, yeah. I think that falls under several of these categories. Anybody that is overly suspicious of something, okay, probably means that they're doing something themselves. Okay, certainly. Okay, but that can fall
The
into the
rules
category.
don't apply to him, kind of concept.
Sure, that can fall into the category of jealousy. That can fall into the category of vindictive. That can fall into the category of isolation. That can fall into the category of blowing up your phone. I mean, that can fall under a lot of different categories. So certainly, you're right. Absolutely. Okay. All right, let's move on. Everyone, spread it out. This is a personal space. Okay, so that's like the stuff that you see on CSI, the stuff you see on Law and Order, or the stuff that you hear about on the news all the time. Okay, young woman is jogging with headphones in her ears, she gets grabbed, pulled into a van, and gets sexual assault. That is stranger sexual assault. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, again, it's kind of like the perception that it's random, completely random. You're just walking somewhere, somebody grabs you, pulls you into a van, okay, and bad things happen. All right, now understand that this is characterized by a very specific set of circumstances. Okay, and our job, okay, is to interrupt these patterns as quickly as you can. Okay, your ability to interrupt these patterns is going to be the difference between you being successful and not being successful in these situations. All right, number one, okay? Phase number one. The first thing we'll say that a sexual predator has to do is they have to identify an unsuspected target. Okay? So when I say that it's random to you, it's not always random to them. Okay? You may have been groomed, okay, for months, okay, in order for them to attempt to commit this crime, right? Okay? So they have to identify an unsuspected target. When I say identify an unsuspected target, they have to find somebody who they believe is not paying attention, not present in the moment, unsuspecting of a potential crime. That's what they think. Okay? That's what they're looking for. That's the first thing. Okay? So how do we interrupt that first pattern? Well, by definition, if you're always suspecting, then you're never an unsuspecting target. If you always believe that there's a possibility for the worst to happen, then you're never even in phase one. Okay? But the problem is most of the time we're not like that. Okay? All right, but that's the first step, okay? The next step, okay, that they have to follow, they have to subdue the opponent. Okay, they have to subdue the target, which is you. Okay? So they have to identify you first, then they have to subdue you. That means they have to restrain you in some capacity if they're going to commit sexual assault. They gotta restrain you. Now, in step two, that's when you fight. That's when you do all of the gross skill strikes. You do whatever it takes. Okay, you punch, you scratch, you claw, you bite. You do whatever it takes to prevent yourself from going into phase three. Right? Okay? So you can't do it in phase one. Why can't you do it in phase one? Because you don't know. Right? Okay? You can't preemptively strike people, unfortunately. Okay? So again, once it goes into phase two, once they go into that subdue phase, that's when you fight. That's when you do the palm strikes, the elbow strikes, the knees, the clawing, the scratching, the biting. Okay? And again, it's not going to be like it is in the movies. Okay? It's going to be very primal, it's going to be very raw, and it's going to be sloppy. But that's what it is. Okay? Now, the next phase, from phase two to phase three, that's when they exhaust and control. Okay? This part is critical. Okay? By definition, once you're exhausted, you're going to have a hard time fighting. Okay? But that's when they carry out the sexual assault. Okay, once the fight has been given up, or it's not given up, it's just to the point to where there's not enough intensity in your fight to defend yourself anymore. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's once it gets into the phase three, and then phase four, that's when they carry out the sexual assault. Now, how do we interrupt this pattern? Okay, number one, okay, the more physically fit we are, okay, the less likelihood we are to be exhausted, right? The next thing is, if you do get into phase three, well then you have to have a plan. Here's your plan. Okay, you do get to the point where you're exhausted and you have become controlled. Okay? You're going to make your opponent think that you have completely given up. So if it does get to phase three, okay, exhaust and control, you have to make your opponent think that you've given up all hope and you're completely giving in. Okay, you have to sell it. You have to make sure that your emotions and your behaviors and your actions are congruent with your words. Okay? You can't say, I'm giving up, and then start clawing and punching. Okay? You have to make them believe it. Okay? Then, once they completely bought into the fact that you've given up, okay, and you're complying with whatever it is that you want, that's when you go back to phase two and you fight like crazy. Okay, now, let me paint a picture for you psychologically. That could take hours. That process could take hours. That process could take days. Question?
What about when there's a weapon and there's a threat? Okay, you don't comply. You don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're talking about in a situation like a domestic situation, or are you talking about
Either one. Either stranger or domestic.
Okay, so domestic is a little bit different than
Stranger.
Yeah, so we're talking about strangers. So from a stranger standpoint, okay, if that happens out in the open, okay, we'll have a whole section that talks about weapons. But the likelihood, if let's just say hypothetically you ran away, okay, let's just say you just took off running, okay, the likelihood that they hit you, okay, is 4 in 100, okay, 4 in 100 chances. Okay, so I can't tell you specifically what to do because there's so many different variables that are involved when somebody has a weapon. Okay, but I'm just going to tell you the likelihood if somebody pulled a gun on you and said, get in my car or I'm going to kill you, okay, it's a 4 in 100 chance that they would be able to shoot you and kill you. Okay, so generally speaking, again, I cannot cover every single variable. Okay, but the best situation in the best thing to do in all of those situations is to just take off and run the other way. Does that make sense? Okay, all right. Okay, so again, phase 3. You have to get them to think that you've given up. Once they completely believe that you've given up, then you revert back to phase 2 and you fight and you kick and you scratch and you do everything like crazy. And again, that's to prevent the last phase, phase 4, sexual assault. Now, this is characterized by extreme violence. This is the worst things that you hear about on TV, okay, or you see in the news. It usually comes from stranger sexual assaults. Okay, this is what we've been programmed to be afraid of, okay, since day one. Now, fortunately, in terms of all sexual assault, it only happens 22% of the time. Out of all the sexual assaults that occur, okay, this is far less frequent. Okay, in terms of that random, you're walking, somebody grabs you, pulls you in a van, commits sexual assault, takes you to location number 2, and that's the end of it. Okay, out of all of them, it's only 22% of the time. Okay, so we've been programmed to kind of be afraid of this. However, if you interrupt the pattern in phase 1, you're good. Okay, all right, moving on. Again, I told you that it was characterized by completely different behaviors than non-stranger sexual assault. Now, non-stranger sexual assault, that's somebody that you have a relationship with in some capacity, okay? It could mean that you're in an intimate relationship with them. It could mean it's a friend. It could mean it's a friend of a friend. It could mean it's acquaintance. It could mean it's somebody you work with, somebody in your life in some capacity, okay? The easiest way to kind of to visualize this is maybe a neighbor or a friend or a friend or acquaintance. Is the easiest way to kind of visualize this, okay? Now, or maybe somebody that's trying to date you, okay? All right, now, characterized by 3 different phases. Phase number 1, intrusion, okay? So this is maybe somebody that's trying to date you. The first thing that they have to do is they have to intrude. When I say intrude, that's going to be test your boundaries. That means testing your fence. They're going to try to see how you respond, okay, to basic stimulus. So they send you a text message that may be sexually suggestive. They want to see what you're going to do when they send that message. If they get the response that they're looking for, okay, well then they're going to proceed further. Okay, or they're going to say something and do something suggestive to see what you do. Okay, and again, if you give them the response they're looking for, which is anything but no, okay, with a definitive boundary being set, then they're going to continue to proceed further. Okay, so this kind of non-stranger sexual assault starts with this intrusion phase. Okay, and it could be in the form of a text message, it could be in the form of something, some sort of physical act that they do, it could be in the form of something that they say to you, it could be in the form of an email, it could be in the form of something said about you to somebody else. All of that is intrusion. Okay, basically something that's not wanted. Okay? Step number 2, desensitization. Now, what we think, okay, is that when somebody intrudes in that way, they send us a text message or a pic message or say something to us that is sexually suggestive or something that crosses our boundary that's unacceptable, okay, we think that we would become more assertive. Statistically speaking, the opposite happens. Okay, statistically speaking, you actually become desensitized to it. Statistically speaking, when it happens over and over and over again, okay, you tend to attribute those behaviors, okay, to just part of the person's personality. Okay, oh, that's just how Chad is. He says stuff like that. He does stuff like that. Okay, that's just type. That's just who they are as a person. Okay, you tend to become desensitized to it. Okay, unfortunately, that's the challenge. Okay, so if you feel like you're getting to a situation where this kind of behavior is happening all the time with somebody specific, okay, you might have become desensitized to it to the point to where you no longer feel comfortable setting that boundary. Okay, and that's the challenging part. Okay, and then the last phase is isolation. Okay, at that point, once they've already intruded, okay, and they've gotten the response from you that they're looking for, which is anything but no and setting a boundary, right? Then you become desensitized to it, where you're just attributing those kind of behaviors to their personality, that's just who they are. Okay, then you become isolated, and they get you to a point to where you're alone. Okay? Now, that can mean a lot of things. Alone in your house, alone in his house, okay, alone at a party, okay, a football game in a car, all of that is isolation. Okay? And then once they get into isolation, okay, that's when they attempt a sexual assault. Okay, now understand this. Once it's gone into phase 3, okay, they've intruded, you become desensitized to it. Now you're alone with this person, hopefully not intoxicated, but if you are, that exacerbates the problem. Once you get into that situation, okay, you're on your bed, they're on top of you, and you're both intoxicated. That makes it significantly more challenging to come back. It's much more challenging at that phase. Okay, so again, our challenge is going to be to interrupt this pattern in phase 1. Okay? Immediately when somebody intrudes, that's when you have to set the boundary. Don't wait till it gets to this point. Okay? I'm not saying that once it gets to this point, you do nothing. I'm just saying at that point, many times it's too late because you may be in a position where you are no longer in control. Right? Okay? If you're inebriated on your bed and somebody's on top of you and they're bigger and stronger than you, you are no longer in a position of control. Okay? You're in a position of control here. Okay? You can set a boundary here. All right? Once it gets here, it's almost impossible. Okay? I use the analogy of the plant versus the tree. Okay? If you're trying to pull a plant out of the ground, all you got to do is pick it out. Okay? But if you're in a position where you got to chop down a sequoia tree, that's going to be next to impossible. Right? Okay? So we want to make sure that we want to set the boundary once we're in phase one. Here's how you do it. We set the boundary with what I call a three-part statement. Okay? Three-part statement is this. First thing you got to do is you got to state the behavior. So whatever it is that they did, you got to tell them it's unacceptable. Okay? Number two. Okay, you got to tell them how it makes you feel. Okay, when you send me text messages like that, it makes me feel like we're not friends because friends don't do things like that to each other, or say things like that to each other, or behave in that manner with each other. Okay? And the third thing you got to do is you have to tell them exactly what they need to do. Okay, because again, with men, you have to be absolutely, positively, crystal clear. Okay? Crystal clear. Okay, so you got to state the behavior, tell them how they feel, tell them exactly what they need to do. For example, don't ever send or do anything like that to me ever again. It makes me question our friendship and our relationship. Okay? And again, that has to be done in phase one. Trying to do it in phase three, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's a lot harder. Okay? It's just a lot harder. Okay, so again, I'm going to repeat that again. Three-part statement. State the behavior. Okay? What you said, what you did was unacceptable. State how it makes you feel. It makes me feel like we're not friends, or it makes me feel like you don't care about me, or it makes me feel like you don't value our relationship, or it makes me feel disrespected, or it makes me feel what have you. Third thing is, tell them exactly what they need to do. Don't do that, don't say that, don't tell that thing, or don't say that thing about me, okay, on via text, or on the internet, or to a friend, ever again. Again, you've got to be absolutely crystal clear. Does that make sense? Yes, ma'am.
Don't you think that men that do that to their partners are usually looking for that kind of girl that wouldn't do that? They're like very naive and they're thinking that's what they should do, but they just never do.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. That's why we have these classes. Okay, it's for the people that do think like that. Okay, some of you guys, this is obvious. This is like, oh, duh. Somebody sent me a picture, of their body, okay? Then you would immediately tell them exactly where they could take that picture and put it, right? Okay? Some of you guys are like that. Some of you guys aren't like that, okay? Or some of you guys just don't know, okay? Or not sure, or sometimes things like that make you feel uncomfortable. And when it makes you feel uncomfortable, your response is not going to be the same way as somebody that feels really assertive in those situations. So that's what these classes are about, okay? It's to kind of empower people to say, hey, in the intrusion phase, that's when you address the problem. That's when you interrupt the pattern. Yes, ma'am?
I just want to say, statistically, you're not the norm because you're in a self-defense class. Statistically, you're not the norm. So most women will not respond to that.
Okay. All right, now, this is typically characterized by what I call instrumental violence. Instrumental violence is proportional to how much you resist, okay? So, for example, where's my push her back, okay? When she grabs me, okay, I grab her back. That's instrumental violence. It's directly proportional to how much my opponent resists. It's not more than that. The reason why it's not more than that is because that sends a different message. Okay, if she grabs me and I punch her in the head, okay, that sends a different message. It's designed specifically like that to confuse you, okay? Because the reason why is you go away from the situation feeling like, well, I didn't get punched, I didn't get kicked. Okay, it wasn't a stranger that grabbed me and put me in the van and committed sexual assault. This is somebody that I like. This is somebody I was on a date with. This is somebody I know. It's done like that specifically to confuse you. Okay, again, we call that instrumental violence. Okay, this is not going to be necessarily the situation where you're put on the ground and somebody beats you up. Okay, and then commits sexual assault. Okay, it's literally just enough to get the job done. It's just enough to commit that sexual assault. And again, it's done specifically that way. It's calculated that way to confuse you. So these behaviors look completely different than this. It's not even close. And again, this is what you've been programmed to be afraid of, but most of the time, 78% of the time, it happens like this, right? And it goes back to our statistic, only 15% of rape is reported because this rape doesn't look anything like this rape. And it's done like that purposely, okay? And statistically speaking, people who do this do it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, to the point to where it's systemized, okay, and to the point to where it's easy, right? And statistically speaking, they know that they're probably not going to get caught or reported, okay? So that's something we got to work on, all right? Okay, any questions? Okay. Put it out. Rohypnol is illegal. Nobody should have that. You know somebody who does, send them to jail. Okay. The most common date rape drug is up here. You know what it is? Alcohol. Why is it alcohol?
Easily available.
It's available.
Social settings.
Social setting. Okay. It's even more fundamental than that. The reason why alcohol is the #1 date rape drug is because nobody has to make you drink it. Okay. Most people will do it on their own. Okay. To excessive points, to the point to where, you know, it's a little bit harder to protect yourself. Okay, so that is the #1 date rape drug. You know, I do have some suggestions as it pertains to alcohol. Okay, some common sense things too. I think we know the basics, right? Everybody knows you don't leave a drink, okay, in one spot. I think you guys have been hearing that for the last 10 years. You don't leave a drink unattended ever. Okay, you don't allow somebody to get you a drink. We know that too. You don't have somebody go get it for you, right? Okay, if you're at a bar, then you watch the entire process. Right, we know that. We know those things. Common fundamental stuff. If you guys are at a party, you don't drink out of the community, whatever. Okay, the punch bowl, things like that. We know that, right? Okay, if you don't, now you know. Okay, you don't do things that you don't drink out of the punch bowl. That's gross anyway. I wouldn't do it. Okay. Don't leave your drinks unattended. You know, with regards to alcohol, here's your challenge. You're going to get to a certain point with alcohol where you almost can't defend yourself. Okay, and if you've ever had any experience with alcohol, maybe have only been there once or twice, but you do get to a certain point of threshold of no return where it is impossible. Okay, so what can you do? Let's just say hypothetically, you are going out and you know you're going to reach that point. I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying. I'm not saying you do that on a regular basis. I'm just saying hypothetically. You know you're going to reach that point to where you're going to have a hard time protecting yourself. Okay, what is one thing instinctively that we should do? Yeah, can't do that by yourself. Can't do it by yourself. Can't be out, okay, getting to that point of inebriation by yourself ever. Ever. Okay? Here's our challenge, is that most people don't understand how the body metabolizes alcohol, especially young people. Okay, young people get themselves into trouble with this all the time because they don't get it. They think, oh, because I had 6 shots last week, okay, that means I can have 6 shots this week and be great. Okay, that's not how it works. There's so many different things about your body that could affect the way your body metabolizes it. It could be things that you ate that day. It could be your hormones. It could be all kinds of different things that affect the way you metabolize alcohol. Okay, what you were able to do last week doesn't equal what you're able to do this week. Right? Okay, and for young people, they have a hard time with that and say, oh, well, I was great when I took 10 shots last week, so I should be great this week. No, you might have been great last week, but this week that could mean that you are completely over the top, okay, intoxicated to the point where you can't protect yourself. That make sense? Okay, so here's what I always say, especially to young people, okay, as it pertains to alcohol. Okay, there's a limit, okay, that you give yourself no matter what, regardless of how you feel. It's not about how you feel, it's about how much you drink. Okay? So for example, let's say that you've had 4 drinks, okay, or 5 drinks, and you're not drunk. That doesn't mean, or you're not feeling the way you want to feel, or you're not buzzed, or you're not with your friends on their level. Okay? What a lot of people do is they'll say, okay, the next one will be the one that makes me feel the way I want to feel. If you 5 drinks in, you just stop. Okay, you just accept, I'm not getting drunk tonight. I'm not getting intoxicated tonight. I'm not getting buzzed tonight. I'm just going to be done. Okay? But the problem is, especially young people when they go to college, they go, okay, I got 5 drinks in. I'm not buzzed yet. I'm going to have another one. Then they have 6. And they say, I'm not feeling the way I want to feel yet. I'm going to have 1 more. I'm at 7. Okay? Oh, my friend made me have a shot. I'm at 8. Okay? Oh, everyone's having a shot. I'm at 9. Okay? And then they get to that point where they hit that wall, and then it all comes apart. Right? And I know it seems like common sense. Okay, but it's not, because it's common sense that you common practice. Not everyone does that. Okay? But you just give yourself a limit. You say, all right, hey, if I've had 5 drinks and I'm not buzzed or drunk or what have you, party's over. Okay? It doesn't mean that you can't have fun. It just means that you're not getting drunk that night. You just have to take that loss. You just have to take that out. Tonight is not going to happen for you. I'll try it again next weekend. That's it. Okay? And if you do that, you'll be good. But a lot of people don't do that. They just keep going and keep drinking, not understanding how your body's going to metabolize alcohol. Sometimes it's that one drink that doesn't make you buzz. It's that one drink that completely pushes you over the edge to the point where you're intoxicated and you can't protect yourself. Does that make sense? Okay, now, enough about that. Moving on. What to do in case of sexual assault. This is not something I used to add. This is something I added about 6 months ago because I was surprised that most people did not know what to do. Okay, in the case of a sexual assault. Number 1, you've got to call 911. That's very important for litigious reasons, okay? Also, it's important because your mind and your brain can get cloudy, especially over time. Okay, call 911, report everything immediately. They keep a record of it. Very, very important that you do that, okay? The longer that you take, the harder it is to prove. Okay, so if you come forward 6 months down the road, a year down the road, it's much, much more challenging. It's not impossible, it's just much, much more challenging to prove at that point. Okay, so the first step is call 911, very important. The next thing is get to a safe place. Okay, that might not be your house if the sexual assault occurred in your house. Okay, the next thing is don't change or take a shower. That's important for the testing that's going to be done at the hospital. And the next thing is you go immediately to the emergency room. I was stunned at how many people did not know that last step. Okay?
Don't take a shower, right?
That's right. Don't take a shower, don't change. Go immediately to the emergency room. Okay, again, I was surprised that people didn't know that. Okay, but that's very, very important. Okay? They will absolutely, positively take care of you in every way that they know how at the emergency room. Mrs. Hay used to be an emergency room nurse. Okay, she's very familiar with incidents and like that and the setup that they have. They're completely set up to take care of you in those situations. Okay, but immediately go to the ER. Very, very important to do all the testing and things to make sure that you're safe or what have you. Okay, so again, call 911. Get to a safe place. Don't change or take a shower. Very important. Go immediately to the ER. Okay, and again, following that formula makes it a lot easier. Okay, if you do get to the point where you have to press charges or prove something in court for litigious reasons, it's very important that you guys follow those steps. Okay, and again, if people don't know that, tell them. Pass that on. Okay, that's what you got to do. Okay. All right, moving on. We're going to go defense against the choke. Okay, front choke. You have this triangle, and you have to have all the components. All right, if you don't have all the components, then there's no crime. Right. So if you eliminated all the sexual predators, you wouldn't have a problem. If you had eliminated all the targets, then there's no problem. If there's no opportunity, then there's no crime. So the key is you have this triangle, okay, in order for there to be a crime, all the components have to be in place. Okay, now, here's what we get. We have to figure out a way to interrupt these patterns. At the top is sexual predators. There's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing we can do about sexual predators, okay, unless you're in law enforcement, right? They're everywhere. All right, they're your neighbors. They're at your work. They're behind you in the grocery store. They're absolutely everywhere. Nothing you can do about that, okay? If you go to meganslaw.gov, you'll see your house. And then you'll see a list of 20 or 30 sexual predators in your immediate area. No matter where you live. No matter whether you live in Point Loma, if you live in Obeek, or whether you live in La Jolla, or you live in East Lake, doesn't matter. They're everywhere. Nothing you can do about that unless you're in law enforcement and you're putting these guys away. Okay? Next thing is targets. Who are the targets? Yeah, you guys are targets, right? Okay? Now, you're always a target, unfortunately. Your challenge is to be a suspecting target. We talked about unsuspecting targets, which was phase 1, right? Your challenge is to be a suspecting target, okay? Unless, if you don't want to be a target, then you can walk around with a gun and point at everybody. Then you are no longer a target. Most of us socially, though, are not willing to make that concession, okay? All right, anyway, then the last thing is opportunity. So again, you need the sexual predator, you need the target, which is you, and then you need an opportunity. Once you have all those three things together in the same place, in the same time, in the same moment, that's when there's an opportunity for crime, okay? Now, I've made a list of 5 places, okay, that are the most common place for sexual assault to occur. Okay? It doesn't mean that if it's not on the list, it's not, you should dismiss it. Everything that you're about to tell me is important because that means you've heard it from somewhere or something or seen it on TV or what have you. Okay, there's probably a list of 30 things that, 30 places you could be super aware about, but these are the top 5. Okay? So what do you think is on this list? Top 5 places, most common places you could be sexually assaulted.
Parties.
Yep. Okay. That comes under a different category, but you're right. Okay, everything you guys say is right. Okay, I'm just gonna make a list of the top 5, but that's correct. Yeah.
Your house.
Your house. That is number 5.
Okay.
Yeah, your house is in the top 5, unfortunately. Okay. Now that's good and that's bad. Okay. Good from the standpoint that there's resources in your house. Okay, you might have weapons in your house. You might have people in your house to protect you and things like that. Okay. Now it's challenging. Okay, because sometimes sexual assault comes within the family. Okay, so that's something you got to be aware of. Okay, so it's safe, but then it's not safe. Okay, but it's in the top 5. Okay, because of that reason. All right, what else? Top 5. Yep.
Bar?
Bars. That is in there, but it's not in the top 5. But the thing about being in an actual bar, okay, is that the crimes rarely happen inside the actual bar.
Parts, is it? Parts. Like
Oh,
bars
cards.
and
Oh,
open
gotcha.
trails,
Okay.
like-
Yeah, that's in the top 10, but it's not in the top 5. Okay, but as it pertains to parks, okay, most people are targeted in public restrooms, okay, in parks. Okay, so that's a time that you don't want to be there by yourself, certainly. Okay, always go with a buddy. Okay, it's in the top 10, but it's in the top 5. But yeah, absolutely. Yes. Parking lots, yes. Parking lots, yes, are in the top 5. Now, when I say parking lots, that can mean a lot of different things. If you work downtown, underground parking garages, okay, that's a place where you target. Horton Plaza, the little parking structure, absolutely. Grocery store parking lots, completely. Mall parking lots, absolutely. Here's my advice to you as it pertains to parking lots. Okay, 1, don't be there by yourself. Number 2, be conscious of who you're parked next to. Okay, if you pull up and you're parked next to a van with the windows blacked out and looks suspicious, well, it probably is. Don't park next to it. Okay, always be conscious of who's parked next to you. Now, you get out of the grocery store and you see somebody suspicious parked next to you, okay, get a worker to walk you out to your car. Okay, they ask if you want that anyway, you might as well let them do that. Right? Okay, if you're shopping, you're at Fashion Valley and you're shopping, okay, you're leaving the store, ask somebody to walk you out to your car. Okay, some people go like, oh, that's weird, I don't want to, socially, I just don't like the way it makes me look. Who cares? Okay, I know people that work at Nordstrom. They're supposed to do that. Okay, so I asked somebody to, or a security guard, doesn't matter. Get somebody to walk you to your car. Better to be safe than sorry, because parking lot is in the top 5 places that people get taxed. Okay, malls, businesses, grocery stores. Yes.
I was gonna say Champs, but that's probably like that.
Absolutely, yeah, like 24 Fitness over here in Savons. Okay, yeah, it's primary. Okay, so just be conscious and be aware of that. Once you get out of the grocery store, have the worker walk you out every time. Okay, don't be afraid to ask. Okay, what's another one? No. Okay, and the reason why that's not up there is because you have to think about the places that are the most cliche probably aren't in the top 5. Okay, why do you think that is? Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right. Okay, criminals are not walking down alleys with trench coats looking for people, right? Okay, they're trying to outsmart you. They're trying to outthink you, right? Okay, what else? School, yes. Not any school though. That's number 1.
College is number 1.
College number 1, yeah. In terms of sexual assault, more assault happens on college campuses than anywhere else in the country.
Well,
College
because of
campuses.
the alcohol.
Yeah, it's the whole culture of college kind of perpetuates what's going on there. Absolutely. No.
But the predator doesn't have to go to college, that's just where he.
No, the predators are in college. No, the predators are in college. The predators are in college. Yeah.
They're students.
Yeah, they're students there.
Or
Sometimes they're not. Okay, so sometimes it's somebody who lives by college campus, but the overwhelming majority of rape that happens on college campus is by the students. So, and one of the interesting things is it doesn't matter where you go to college. Okay, now that's what we know about sexual assault. That's what we know about rape. It's something that transcends every kind of stereotype, every type of norm. It's everywhere. It doesn't matter what college you go to. Okay, it could be community college, it could be Harvard. It doesn't matter. Okay, there was just an article that came out a year ago that talked about how some Ivy League colleges, it's not against Ivy League college, I'm just saying, okay, how they go above and beyond to kind of cover up things like that. Okay, even more so than like state colleges and things like that. They go really above and beyond to make sure things like that don't get out. Okay, and they don't even do a lot to protect the victims. Okay, and those really prestigious universities. So I'm not saying don't go there. I'm just saying that it's a problem everywhere. No matter where you go. Okay, yeah, college is number 1. Absolutely. All right, 2 and 3. These places are. I don't know if we get these, but
Workplace,
no.
cars.
All right, I'll give you 1. Yeah, ATMs. Okay, millennials don't even know what ATMs are, but ATMs, yeah, because it's 2 for 1. Okay, they get you and your money. So obviously, if you're at an ATM late at night by yourself, that is a terrible place to be. Okay, that's not something you should be doing by yourself at night. Okay, period. Do it during the day. Go with a buddy, or wait till the next day. Okay, but don't do it at night by yourself, certainly, ever.
What about gas station? I was like,
Yep, that is number 2.
Because sometimes, you're like kind of, doing it alone.
Yeah.
To do.
Well, you're exactly right there, Mrs. Powers. You do it alone, and it's one of those things that's kind of a necessity. You get low on gas, it's late, you got to pull over, and you got to get gas. My suggestion to you as it pertains to both these things is it takes a little bit of discipline, it takes a little bit of planning, but don't do this by yourself at night, period. Don't do it. Okay, wait till the next day, have your husband go, have your boyfriend go, or go with a friend, or go with a buddy. Don't do it by yourself at night. Okay, plan a little bit better. Okay? And if it's your kids, tell them not to do that. Okay, if it's your daughters, tell them not to do that. Okay? All right, so there's the top 5. Now, everything that you guys said was correct. Okay? There's a long list of things. These are just what's in the top 5. But all those places that you guys mentioned, those are certainly places you have to hide yourself from awareness. Okay? All right, and what else do we want to do? All right, let's do. I'll let you guys decide. We can either do guard escape or mount escape. Okay, let's have Mrs.
So in this part of the video, I'm going to show you a couple ways that if you ever get pinned down to the ground or ever on your back in, in a situation or something like that, here are a few ways that you can get out of it, okay? So if you're ever pinned down like this, and you're in the mount, this is what we call the mount, all you're going to do is first you're going to take one of your feet and you're going to put it over their foot to trap their foot. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your hand, you're going to go up through their arm, around their arm, breaking it down just like this, making sure that they're nice and tight in here. Then from there, you're just going to bridge your hips up, you're going to push them over like this, and then you're in what we call the guard. Now how to get out of this is you're just going to either put your elbows into their inside of the knees, you can extend your foot out and push their knee down, or if it's a self-defense situation, you can always just keep striking the nuts, do whatever you can to try and get out of it, push yourself away, say back off, get your hands nice and up high. So if you're ever pinned down and they have your hands like this and you can't move, what you can do is you can still get out of it by pushing your hips up and pushing your hands down at the same time. So you're going to push those hips up, hands down at the same time, and you're going to really push hard so they let go. So I'm going to try it. Ready? And so just like that. From here, trap that foot again. You're going to do the same step as last time. Bring that arm around, trap the arm nice and tight, push up like this, roll over, push on the knees, self-defense. You can strike the groin, push up and back away. So here's some wrist manipulations that you can do. So if someone grabs you, you can always get out of it. So if someone grabs you on the same side, just like this, see how it's his hand and my hand, or I mean, it's the same arm. What you do, if they start pulling you, make sure you get into a really nice, good base. You're gonna clasp your hands together. You're gonna bring your elbow to his elbow. Just like that, and then you're gonna snap away, okay? The next one that you can do is if someone grabs you on both of your hands, just like this, we call this a double wrist grab. You get in your strong base again. If he tries to pull you, clasp your hands together, bring your elbows in, then bring your hands up to your ears and back away. Make sure that with all these wrist manipulations that you really snap it up to your head or really snap it out hard so that they breaks the grip. The next one that you can do is the cross grab. So if they cross, if it's a cross grab like this, all you can do is you're going to get into a strong base just like before. You're going to snake around, you're going to push off, and you're going to say back off, just like that. And then the last one that we like to teach people is the 2-on-1 wrist grab. So if you grab two hands on one of your arms, all you're going to do is base again. This time you're going to reach over, put your hand in a nice little fist like this. You're going to reach over, you're going to snap your hands to your ears, make sure you really snap it out hard. If you don't snap it hard, they're not going to let go. So you're going to have to snap hard, then you're going to back off.